Live from WTOC, the Southeast News leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Thanks for joining us here this morning for the news on WTOC Plus. I'm digital anchor Jude Binkley. The Glynn County Police Department says they believe they've found the body believed to be a missing woman. Here's what we know. They believe the body of 74-year-old Judy Ann Dean has been found in Glynn County. Police say the cause of death is still undetermined, but they say it's not believed to be the result of foul play. The woman was last seen back in November. The details of the case are still being investigated, so stick with WTOC for updates. Well, in 1 hour, all eyes will be on Governor Brian Kemp as he delivers his final State of the State address at the Georgia Capitol. Niamani Watson with our sister station is in downtown Atlanta right now with more on what we can expect to hear from the governor today. Take a look.
Governor Brian Kemp has always talked about improving Georgia's economy, so we'll likely hear more from him on that, as well as making every day more affordable for people, which he says continues to be his top priority. Yesterday, Governor Kemp announced major investments he's proposing for his final year in office during the annual Eggs and Issues breakfast. He says his administration will propose the Education and Workforce Strategy Act, which will ensure collaboration between universities and technical colleges. The governor also proposed investing $50 million to combat homelessness through a new homelessness response grant and over $2 billion to improve traffic flow across the metro, including adding express lanes to I-75 in Henry County, one of the most congested corridors.
We have to drive to the north end of Atlanta for baseball tournaments or sporting events or whatever, and it's going to take you an hour to get through traffic.
Then I'll try to take a back road to avoid all that mess, but it's gotten where the back roads are just about as bad as that.
The governor is in his second consecutive term, which runs until next January. Reporting from downtown Atlanta, I'm Niamani Watson, Atlanta News First.
And if you would like to watch the State of the State address, we will be streaming it live right here in 1 hour at 11 o'clock on WTOC Plus. Well, staying in state news, if it feels like you're paying more at the grocery store, you're certainly not alone. Plus, there's a bill that could impact what you can and cannot buy with SNAP benefits. This week's Consumer Price Index report found inflation only rose 0.3% last month, but the bad news is that categories that impact your monthly budget the most, things like housing, food, and energy costs, all went up. The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently found that the average family of four spent close to $1,000 on groceries in November. That's a few $100s more per month than we spent during the pandemic. The price of beef is up almost 16.5% over the last year. Coffee's up almost 20%, and the price of lettuce is up more than 7%, and frozen fish is up 8.5%.
A lot of people are feeling a lot more pressure shopping for their families. Couponing can absolutely make a difference, and how much exactly you're going to save is going to depend on what you need.
If you're hoping to save on your next shopping trip, a lot of stores put coupons directly on their apps. You can also sign up for loyalty programs to score weekly specials. And if you're buying in bulk, consider memberships to Costco or Sam's Club. And when you head to the store, stick to your list. And if you rely on SNAP to make ends meet, new legislation in Georgia could change what you can and can't buy. The bill would limit certain unhealthy foods and drinks like candy, sugary drinks, desserts, and energy drinks.
I'm more concerned about people eating, period. And it's not that hard to just get off your high horse and say, our kids eating, because that's what I care about.
The bill would also require SNAP recipients to recertify their eligibility every year during their birthday month. That would be starting in 2027. Well, we do have a WTOC update for you. An Effingham County judge will decide whether the high-profile Crocker murder case will move to a new venue. Elwyn Crocker Sr. is charged with the murder of his two teenage children, Mary and Elwyn Jr., back in 2018. Lawyers for Crocker were in court this week. The decision to change the venue for this case will be scheduled for a date before the trial after the court granted their motion for an evidentiary hearing. Kim Wright, the child's step-grandmother, and Roy Prater, her boyfriend, have their depositions set for February 2nd. Both have already pleaded guilty for their roles in the murders. Turning now to national news, President Trump says Iran's planned executions are now on pause as protests continue in that country. Meanwhile, a longtime U.S. ally is pushing back on the Trump administration's desire to acquire Greenland. CBS's Jared Hill has the latest.
Iranian airspace closed for hours amid tensions with the U.S. over Tehran's bloody crackdown on anti-government protests. President Trump earlier said he'd learned Iran's planned executions were now off the table.
They've said the killing has stopped and the executions won't take place.
Medical officials contacted by CBS News inside Tehran believe the protester death toll stands at least 12,000. Meanwhile, in Washington, a focus on the north. Denmark's foreign minister pushed back on President Trump's desire to acquire Greenland.
We made it very, very clear that this is not in the interest of the kingdom.
The meeting with the Vice President and Secretary of State, as President Trump has insisted the U.S. needs Greenland for national security, a place to potentially position a Golden Dome missile defense system to take out Russian ballistic missiles fired at the U.S.
If we don't go in, Russia's going to go in and China's going to go in. And there's not a thing that Denmark can do about it.
Lawmakers skeptical.
The idea that we have to own the country in order to protect our national security is just nonsense.
Also on Capitol Hill,
the point of order is sustained.
Vice President J.D. Vance, the tie-breaking vote, blocking a move to limit President Trump's ability to further strike Venezuela.
When the Republicans rubber stamp everything he does, the constraints go away.
Lawmakers say Secretary of State Marco Rubio has promised to seek congressional approval in advance of any major operations in Venezuela. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Back here at home, this is a topic that's garnered a lot of chatter here on the coast recently. Georgia lawmakers are debating a bill that would pause the growth of data centers in the state. A report from the University of Georgia found that our state had about 63 active data centers. The majority of them are located in the metro Atlanta region in Fulton, Douglas, Fayette, and Cobb counties. And these centers act as a physical backbone for the internet, storing a vast amount of data, but they also use a whole lot of energy. State reporter Abby Kasoris has more on this debate that is just beginning to play out.
A large-scale data center.
From metro Atlanta to rural Georgia, data center proposals are spreading, and so is the pushback. Supporters say these massive facilities are already reshaping Georgia's economy. A report from the Carl Vinson Institute of Government shows data centers created more than 28,000 construction jobs and 5,000 permanent jobs, pumping billions of dollars into the state.
Honestly, one of the cleanest, greenest, quietest data center regulations in the country.
Georgia's growth is different and faster than anywhere else. According to the investment firm CBRE, Metro Atlanta led the nation in data center expansion last year, surpassing Northern Virginia. And state utility regulators have approved plans to add roughly 10,000 megawatts of new power, largely to meet future data center demand.
Before we start,
Democrat State Representative Rua Roman says the pace is exactly the problem. She's dropping a bill that would pause new data centers through 2027. She says she recruited Republican co-sponsors.
This is permanent. This is a permanent change, and if we get it wrong, Georgians will have to deal with the consequences for decades to come.
The bill would likely need to make it through Republican Representative Brad Thomas's committee, and he feels a statewide moratorium goes too far. It could choke Georgia's economic growth. He points to communities like Covington, where data center revenue could eventually replace property taxes.
I think local communities should make that decision of what works.
Abby Kasoris, Atlanta News First.
And we should also note, as you saw in the story, just a couple of weeks ago here locally, the Port Wentworth Council heard a proposal on a potential local data center. Of course, nothing set in stone there, but that's something we continue to keep tabs on right here at WTOC, and we'll bring you any updates on that, as well as, of course, this proposal now making its way through the state legislature. Well, this morning, a case of highly contagious bird flu has now been confirmed in a commercial poultry flock right here in Georgia. State agriculture officials say the disease was detected in Walker County. That's about 2 hours northwest of Atlanta, so on the other side of the state from us. The Georgia Department of Agriculture is working around the clock to prevent any further spread. The affected area houses more than 71,000 birds. They're all being quarantined. All right, and finally, looking ahead, golf fans, get ready because tickets are now on sale for the 9th annual Club Car Championship at the Landings Golf and Athletic Club in Savannah. The golf tournament is open from Thursday, March 26th to Sunday, March 29th. Ticket prices for the Korn Ferry Tour event start at $10. Kids 17 and under do get in for free with a ticketed adult. Now, the 80s music tribute band Electric Avenue will be headlining the 4th annual Saturday night concert after the 3rd round, bringing the 80s MTV experience. A lot of fun right there that you won't want to miss. For more on how to get tickets, you can head on over to WTOC.com. All right, and with that, we are going to wrap things up here this morning for the news on WTOC Plus. We appreciate y'all spending part of your morning with us. Again, here in about 45 minutes, we'll be back to hear Governor Brian Kemp's final State of the State address. We'll be streaming it live right here on WTOC Plus at 11 a.m. We'll also have it on our Facebook page if that's easier to watch there. But of course, the legislative session started this week, so he will be outlining a lot of his upcoming priorities, a lot of things that we will be keeping tabs on throughout the next 40 days out of the State House. And with that, we're going to wrap things up. For the latest updates, you can always head on over to our website at WTOC.com. Thanks for watching. And here's Local News Live.